Imagine sitting under studio lights, staring straight into the lens and telling stories so explosive, so perfectly sculpted that the entire world leans forward, only to watch those stories unravel piece by piece like a designer gown snagged on reality. That's exactly what happened in 20 times Meghan Markle was caught lying on live TVN proof. Not whispers, not tabloids twisting headlines. Live television. Primetime confessionals, carefully timed pauses, and then documents, dates, witnesses, policies, receipts. The kind that don't blink when the camera does. It started with the Fairy Tale Innocence Act, the wide-eyed, I didn't even Google him revelation, a grown woman, a Hollywood actress, a media-trained public figure claiming she met Prince Harry armed with nothing but one soft question, is he kind? That's it. No curiosity about the monarchy. No late-night scroll, no Wikipedia spiral, just pure fate floating her into the arms of British royalty like she tripped into Buckingham Palace by accident. Except there were photos. Teenage Meghan smiling outside the palace gates years before she ever met Harry. Friends recalling her fascination with Princess Diana, a woman who understood branding, legacy, and power, suddenly pretending she didn't know the difference between a duke and a dishwasher. The I didn't Google him line wasn't romantic. It was strategic. It painted her as the unassuming outsider, not the calculated insider. And once you see that brushstroke, you start noticing the entire canvas. Then came the stockings. The now infamous nude hosiery grievance delivered like she'd survived institutional oppression. She spoke about being forced to wear tones that didn't match her skin as if she'd been denied basic human rights. The way it was framed, you'd think someone confiscated her voice, not handed her pantyhose. But here's the twist that made jaws tighten. Those exact shades later appeared in her own product line. Same concept. Different price tag, the grievance quietly evolved into a business model. Trauma transformed into inventory, and suddenly the injustice didn't look systemic, it looked marketable. Because real oppression doesn't come with a checkout cart. And then she dropped the secret wedding story. Oh, this one was cinematic. According to her, she and Harry had privately married 3 days before the global spectacle. Just the two of them. Intimate vows. The Archbishop of Canterbury popping by like a friendly neighbor. The billion-dollar televised wedding? Just the performance. The real love story happened quietly in a garden. It was the kind of narrative designed to make you sigh and clutch your heart. Except marriage isn't poetry, it's paperwork. Licenses, witnesses, legal signatures. And when the Archbishop himself had to publicly clarify that the only legal wedding occurred on May 19, 2018 in Windsor, the romance cracked. He even stated signing a false certificate would have been a criminal offense. Criminal. Let that word hang there. A senior Church of England official stepping in to say that did not happen. That's not misremembering. That's reconstruction. But it didn't stop there. The photo scandal at Kris Jenner's birthday party tried to sell outrage. A single posted image became a privacy violation. Except, according to those present, the photo had been approved beforehand. Kim Kardashian calmly explained that permission was given until Remembrance Day optics made the timing inconvenient. Suddenly, regret morphed into betrayal. A bad call reframed as victimhood. It wasn't about privacy. It was about narrative control. Because if you can't control the timeline, you control the story. And then came the bridesmaid dress meltdown. The tearful Oprah moment. The soft delivery. The implication that Catherine, Princess of Wales, reduced her to tears before the wedding. A villain was needed, a future queen cast as cold. But palace insiders later whispered the opposite, that Catherine had been the one left in tears and had sent flowers to apologize. Flowers, an apology. And yet on television, the tears were reassigned. A tense pre-wedding disagreement between two stressed women became a morality play. The inversion was almost surgical. And once you realize how easily roles can be swapped in a retelling, you start questioning every emotional crescendo. The One Young World speech was another masterclass in spotlight bending. A summit meant to celebrate youth leaders somehow drifted towards self-reference. In 7 minutes, she mentioned herself dozens of times, even saving her name card as proof she belonged. Instead of amplifying young activists, the narrative circled inward. It wasn't a celebration, it was validation. And critics noticed, because when an event forgets its purpose, the applause sounds different. Then there was the passport story. This one was heavy. She claimed her passport had been taken, that she was trapped, invisible, grounded, a woman imprisoned in a palace. Except public records showed international travel. travel: Paris, New York, Amsterdam, Toronto. Joint trips, solo trips, 13 documented journeys. Airports don't operate on vibes. They scan passports. They stamp documents. You don't accidentally forget boarding gates and hotel check-ins. The image of captivity collided with itineraries, and itineraries don't care about interviews that the protocol claim followed. Nobody helped me, she said. No lessons, no guidance, no preparation. A lone actress tossed into monarchy chaos. Except there was an etiquette coach, a documented professional assigned specifically to prepare her. He even described teaching her how to meet the queen. He expressed shock at her claim. Shock, not mild confusion, shock. Because being erased from someone's memory publicly after personally training them isn't forgetfulness, it's narrative pruning. And the lunch ban story? Sold like solitary confinement. She couldn't go out, couldn't grocery shop, couldn't live, yet cameras caught her at Whole Foods, on outings, on errands. Palace insiders suggested the isolation was self-imposed, that she chose distance. Captivity sounds powerful. Preference sounds ordinary. And ordinary doesn't headline that the nursery fire story escalated everything. A heater allegedly catching fire while Archie slept. A mother shaken, forced to continue an engagement the same day. The implication was chilling, but no incident reports surfaced. No fire brigade records, no official documentation. Real emergencies leave paper trails, especially in royal residences. This one existed solely in recollection. And when a crisis leaves no footprint beyond storytelling, questions linger like smoke without flames. And by now, a pattern had started to form. Grievances rising in intensity, details sharpening for emotional impact. Each story crafted for maximum resonance. Each claim positioned perfectly in front of a global audience. The camera never blinking. The pauses never accidental. The sympathy calibrated, because when reality eventually responds, not loudly, not angrily, just with dates, laws, and records, it doesn't scream. It simply waits. And as you watch these moments stack, one after another, you realize this isn't about a single misstep. It's about repetition, reframing, escalation. And we're only halfway through now. Let's talk about the moment the accusation detonated across continents. The claim about Archie's title. This wasn't a misunderstanding wrapped in confusion. This was the word, racism, dropped into the middle of a globally televised interview like a match into gasoline. According to her, there were concerns and conversations about how dark her unborn child's skin might be and whether he would receive a title or security. The implication was devastating. A family judging a baby before he was even born. A monarchy denying status based on complexion. It was the kind of allegation that freezes a room. And for a moment, the world froze, but then someone opened a law book. Not a press release, not a palace insider whisper. A law written in 1917. The letter's patent issued by King George V. The rule was simple. Only the monarch's grandchildren automatically received the title of prince or princess. When Archie was born, his grandfather Charles was not yet king. That meant Archie was a great-grandchild of the monarch, not a grandchild. No automatic title, no secret meeting, no skin tone ballot, just constitutional sequencing. And when Queen Elizabeth II passed and Charles became king, Archie became eligible. The title followed automatically. No negotiation, no apology, no change of heart. The timeline didn't bend for television. It moved exactly as written more than a century earlier. What had been presented as prejudice unraveled into procedure. And procedure, no matter how dull, doesn't flinch under scrutiny. That then came the security saga, framed as punishment, as if protection had been ripped away vindictively at the moment of greatest vulnerability. The narrative painted a couple exiled and abandoned, stripped of safety as retaliation for daring to speak out. But the rule here was painfully straightforward. Taxpayer-funded security is tied to official working royal duties. You perform the role, the state covers protection. You step away from the role, the coverage ends. That's not emotional, that's contractual. They chose to leave their positions as senior working royals, publicly, dramatically. And when the benefits attached to those roles stopped following them, the shift was presented as cruelty rather than consequence. Independence was declared, but expectation of institutional support remained. Quitting the job while expecting the perks to trail behind isn't persecution. It's selective logic wrapped in glossy packaging. And then the silencing claim. According to her, she was muted by the institution, controlled, managed, forced into obedience. Except during the period she described as suppression, she guest-edited British Vogue. She participated in over 70 official engagements. She gave interviews to the BBC and its EV. She traveled internationally alongside Queen Elizabeth II. That's not silence. That's saturation. Silence looks like obscurity. What she had was amplification. amplification. But here's where it twists. The issue wasn't that she couldn't speak, it was that she couldn't speak without accountability. Royal protocol restricts political commentary and certain personal disclosures. That's not censorship, it's structural neutrality. The difference between I can't say anything and I can't say absolutely anything I want without consequences is enormous. Yet on camera, that nuance dissolved. Then we reached the media sabotage claim regarding her father's staged photographs before the wedding. She implied tabloids sat on the story intentionally, waiting to unleash it for maximum damage just days before the ceremony. A calculated ambush. But the publication explained the delay as verification, checking facts, confirming sources, ensuring legal safety. Journalism often operates on confirmation timelines, not theatrical timing. Not every delay is malice. Sometimes it's simply paperwork catching up. But within the narrative arc, the late reveal became evidence of targeting, a process reframed as conspiracy. And once again, the accusation landed louder than the explanation. And look at the rhythm. Each story follows a pattern. It begins with vulnerability, a personal anecdote delivered softly, then escalation, oppression, cruelty, racism, captivity, then amplification, global broadcast, headline repetition, emotional reinforcement, and finally quiet counterpoints, documents, legal frameworks, eyewitnesses, timelines. The rebuttals rarely arrive with the same volume. They don't need to. They simply exist. And existence is stubborn that the cumulative effect is what's truly staggering. It isn't about one contested memory. Humans misremember. It's about frequency, the repeated inversion of events, tears reassigned, laws omitted, coaches forgotten, travel logs ignored, titles reframed. Each individual claim might survive alone. Together, they form a mosaic, and mosaics reveal patterns you can't see in isolation. The nursery fire story, revisited in context, becomes more than a dramatic anecdote. It becomes escalation. When previous grievances fade from headlines, the stakes rise. Dress codes morph into emotional harm. Administrative rules morph into discrimination. A faulty heater morphs into a near tragedy with no documented trace. Escalation keeps attention alive, and attention in modern celebrity culture is oxygen. Even the grocery shopping lament fits the blueprint. The longing for anonymity, the craving for normalcy. It resonates because it's relatable. Who wouldn't miss strolling through a market unbothered? But the contradiction appears when photographic evidence shows routine outings. The imprisonment narrative weakens under candid images of daily life. And so the emotional framing begins to look less like testimony and more like branding, because branding is the silent undercurrent here. The outsider wronged by the establishment, the truth teller facing ancient institutions, the modern woman versus archaic protocol. It's compelling, it's cinematic, and it sells. Interviews, streaming deals, memoirs, speaking engagements, they thrive on narrative tension. But tension requires stakes, and stakes sometimes require embellishment. What makes this saga mesmerizing isn't outrage, it's precision. Each allegation was delivered in environments designed for maximum impact. Oprah stage, international summits, carefully edited documentaries. There were no offhand bar conversations. These were curated platforms. That matters, because when a claim is made casually, contradiction feels forgivable. When it's made in front of tens of millions with rehearsed cadence, contradiction feels deliberate. And still, through all of it, the institution often responded with silence. No fiery press conferences, no televised counterattacks, just adherence to protocol and quiet correction when legally necessary. Silence can look guilty, but it can also be strategic, because when a narrative collapses under its own inconsistencies, intervention becomes unnecessary. That the 1917 law didn't defend itself emotionally. It simply existed. The Archbishop didn't argue, he clarified. Travel logs didn't debate, they timestamped. The etiquette coach didn't attack, he expressed shock. Reality in this entire spectacle rarely shouted. It just waited. And here's the uncomfortable realization. Narratives built primarily on emotion struggle against documentation. Emotion persuades quickly. Documentation persuades eventually. One travels fast, the other endures. So when you step back and survey the full list, the Google innocence, the stockings grievance, the secret wedding, the photo approval reversal, the bridesmaid tears inversion, the youth summit self-focus, the passport captivity, the protocol abandonment, the lunch lockdown, the nursery fire, the security betrayal, the racism title framing, the silencing claim, the media sabotage, you don't just see isolated disputes. You see a choreography, a cycle of escalation, empathy, amplification, and then quiet contradiction. And maybe that's the most revealing part. Not whether every single detail was intentionally misleading, not whether some were exaggerated under stress, but the consistency with which stories position her as wronged and institutions as cruel until paperwork entered the room. And paperwork, unlike interviews, doesn't improvise. The question isn't whether people should sympathize with struggles. Public life is brutal. Scrutiny is relentless. Adjustment is painful. But sympathy anchored to facts endures. Sympathy detached from facts evaporates under inspection. So now, standing at the end of all 20 moments, what lingers isn't anger. It's pattern recognition. It's watching how easily perception can be shaped by framing, how swiftly headlines can solidify impressions before documentation catches up, and how powerful a well-delivered narrative can be until it meets a law written in 1917, a signed certificate, a travel record, a witness, or a timeline that refuses to cooperate, because the camera captures performance, but time captures truth.